Amazon account is up and running now. We are selling our formula officially. It's amazing stuff from Europe.
Made in Germany. Sold in America.
Highest standards there are. In America, the standards haven't been updated since 1980. It's super weird, like older than me. In Europe, they update safety standards basically every year. This formula is top notch, great for the stomach, great for constipation. This is a great product. If you happen to want to purchase it and join us on our journey, then grab the link in the description. If you do and leave a review for us, send me a screenshot at vinandsori@gmail.com of your review after you have received the product. We will put your name in a hat. Song reviews are going to come out by some of the people that have left reviews. Don't forget to send us a screenshot of your review once you get the product. Now a word from our mascot dressed as a pirate, Fuji.
It's a deal of a deal.
This is the Christmas special.
Yeah.
I think all the songs are with the big homie Sufjan Stevens is the way that, I don't know, is it Sufjan?
I think
it would be Sufjan, like Abu Sufyan, like the dude that came after Muhammad.
It looks like Sufjan.
Might have been Sufjan Stevens. Oh come Emmanuel.
All right, this is A Melancholy Christmas, Sufjan Stevens Christmas stream. The holidays tend to be a gloomy time for me. Growing up, Christmas Eve was a huge event. My mother was one of 7 siblings, and on Christmas Eve, all the aunts, cousins, uncles, etc. would all travel back to gather at my grandma's house to visit, exchange gifts, and so on. And the whole thing was so warm and sweet. Lots of the cousins were born within a year or two of each other, too, so we all grew up together and we were good friends, and the big gatherings were always the highlight of each year. After both of my grandparents died at around 2004, Alzheimer's in both cases. The family sort of dispersed, and we haven't really had a gathering like that since, outside of weddings and funerals. That's too bad. Nowadays, when the holidays come around, I always feel the occasional twinge of longing for those long and magical evenings. As a Buddhist, I still recognize these as a suffering caused by attachment and a resistance to impermanence. Longing after those times and the fact that they are gone really only creates discontentment in the long run. But those feelings still come back every year, and it's so hard to let go. As they say, you can't ever go home again. The indie folk artist and one of my favorites, Sufjan Stevens, has released 10 different EPs of Christmas music recorded between 2001 and 2012. Altogether, he's put together 102 different Christmas songs. Some traditional, some original, some instrumentals, and so forth. With an upbringing as difficult as he's alluded to in some of the past songs you've heard, Christmas was a difficult enough time that as an adult he dedicated so much time and effort to try and reconnect with the holiday spirit. This stream features 6 such selections. 2 traditional, 2 original, for us all to enjoy and settle into the high and lows of the heaviest time of the year. Wow. Thanks a bunch to Middle Earth for helping out to fund part of the stream, he said. Wow, okay. Well, let's get into it. This first song is O Come, Emmanuel, and he said this one is based on a 12th century Latin hymn. I'm actually not sure how this song relates to Christmas itself, but perhaps you two can enlighten me, he said. Either way, Sufjan's mellow interpretation recorded in 2001 is lovely. All right, so here we go. First song in the Christmas Bonanza, Sufjan Stevens, O Come Emmanuel. Let's do it. Do you hear anything? No. Oh, wait. No.
Do you hear anything?
I thought maybe it was just starting, but no.
Okay, talk to the people.
Well, we will get this Christmas story night started very soon.
Some of the issue is that we've got copyright claims. So the videos that we saw, the videos that got sent to us were all official videos, and
right.
You guys know what happens. We get shut down when that happens. So we were trying to find a workaround.
Yeah, it was official audio. So, if you didn't realize, you think, oh, well, official, that should be fine because it's audio and not the visuals, but they'll even catch that. I don't even understand how they can catch that, but they do.
Yeah.
So you're trying to find some lyric videos right now?
Yeah. Well, we had one. Don't worry about it. Negative vibes. It's all good. We had it. It's just. Here we go. Let's try this again. Okay,
anyway,
so
the weather has
is a
gotten
legit
really cold around
copy.
here. There's now ice on the roads. That's exciting.
Yep. Dorian's doing his driver's, getting his driver's hours in.
He's gonna be like official next week or this weekend, maybe even.
He's get official permit.
Yeah, that's what I
Right,
mean.
and then
An official permit.
he's gonna go to.
So
I don't know when he's gonna go take the test. But
yeah, I think he has to wait 6 months or something. But
good times,
yep,
good times.
He's gonna be driving around the town. That's crazy, right?
Lock your windows, close your doors.
Yep. Do you have it, or we?
Well, let me try it again.
1,
Yeah, we're good. We got it. Okay.
3, 4.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Song number 1 in the Sufjan Stevens Christmas
Oh come,
Bonanza.
Emmanuel.
Oh come, Emmanuel. Let's go.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel, that mourns in lonely exile here, until the Son of God appears. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. Oh, come thou day spring, come and cheer our spirits by thy advent here. Disperse the gloomy clouds of night, and death's dark shadows put to flight. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. Oh come, thou Lord of might, who to thy tribes on Sinai's height, in ancient times didst give the law, in cloud and majesty and awe. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. Rejoice, rejoice.
That is a
was
beautiful
song
version.
numero uno.
Yeah, wow. O come, Emmanuel. is the name of
Different
that
song.
one.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite Christmas songs of all time. This song.
This is a
It's
really
one of my
good one.
favorite Christmas songs of all time.
It's a really good one.
Emmanuel means God is with us. So when it says "O come, Emmanuel," it's God is with us. There's a Old Testament passage around 600 years before Christ, and Christians interpret this, what I'm about to read, obviously as a prophecy of Jesus. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. So, El is God, right? At the end, El is God. And then Emmanuel means that God is with us. And at the time, the Israelites were in exile in Babylon. So God's like, listen, if you worship false gods and you mistreat the orphan, the widow, and the sojourner, if you're not good to basically single mothers in distress, if you don't care for immigrants, if you mistreat people and you create an economic system that's exploitative, this is all located in the book of Isaiah. God said, if you treat people like that, I'm not going to protect you when these other nations come to exile you. So by the time the book of Isaiah is written, all of those crimes had been committed in mass by the people. They mistreated the widow. They mistreated the orphan. They didn't care for the poor. They extorted people. They were charging insane levels of interest that people couldn't pay, thereby creating an entire slave class. And so at that point, God said, okay, I'm lifting the protections. And the Babylonians brought them into exile. So while they were in exile, it looked pretty hopeless. It looked pretty terrible. And then you had these prophets like Isaiah and Ezekiel, etc., that were prophesying one day God is going to restore us. One day God's going to bring us back from exile. But the real issue was, we got to find somebody who can make it so we never go back into exile ever again. Because Israel had these cycles where, they'd be fine and then they'd screw up. They'd be fine, then they'd screw up. And then that was all during the period of the judges. So at the time, actually, it's pretty interesting. Israel was an anarchist state to a degree. Before the institution of the kings, there was no federalized system.
True. Yeah.
When the bad guys would show up, they'd find somebody and they'd go do jihad. That was pretty much all of the book of Judges. And then you get into the next set of books, and that's when it introduces you to the kingly line. But the people that were demanding a king were actually presented as bad people. Wanting a king and wanting a sort of federalized government was actually portrayed as something that was bad. But anyway, long story short, the kings, basically the nation went as the king went. So if the king was righteous, the nation was righteous for a little bit. But if the king was weak sauce, they all went that direction. They'd all go in and so there was this horrible cycle. So when you're talking about like the Messiah, the chosen one, or whatever, it's not just that he's going to be the king. It's that he's going to be a king who lasts forever, and he's always righteous, so that the people never end up back into exile. And you can always be in right relationship with God. Yeah. So while they're in Babylon, while they're in exile, there's this hope of this coming king who would establish righteousness forever. And then the name of that person is Emmanuel, God with us, which would be extremely important to the people reading that passage, because remember, the locus of the presence of God in that economy was located at a specific address. It was like 123 Main Street. That's the temple, right? And that's where God's presence was. Well, the Babylonians came, wrecked their temple, destroyed their temple, and then moved them to a completely different area. And so you want to know that, is God still with you? Because on a practical level, we can't worship God anymore in this temple where his presence was located, and now we're in this separate land. And God responds by saying, no, actually, I'm going to send somebody, and this person being in your midst is the equivalent of God being with you. And then, of course, that's where Christians get the idea that Jesus is actually God, because because he is, right? That's our theology. But the second thing is that Jesus himself is the temple, because the temple is the meeting place between God and men. So that's the background for the Come, O come, Emmanuel. It's sort of this cry of the desire for not just the Jewish people, but all of us go through these little cycles of exiles ourselves. Like you talked about it, like where you had this one like golden age moment in your family, everything was great, and then what we call life, you know, or the Bible would call the curse, kind of takes over. It infiltrates into these beautiful moments, and you lose things, and it's like he was saying, like you can never go back home.
Right.
And it's fascinating because when you read about the Israelites going back to Babylon and trying to rebuild the temple, all the OGs that were there before, when they saw the new temple, cried because it was nothing close to what it was like before. Like that cycle, when they went back home, it just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
And so I see a lot. And so like on a macro level, like that's specifically what the text is talking about. But on a micro level, all of us are constantly going through these cycles of, we have a little golden age and then it gets ruined, and you try to get back there, and it's never the same. It's one of the reasons why, like, if an epic of time is done in my life, like I'm done with it, because I know if I try to resurrect that and go backwards, it's just not going to be, not going to be the way that it was before.
Yeah.
So, that's a cry that almost everybody has, pretty much, is. Theoretically, as a Christian, I'm going to say that those beautiful moments that we have with our families and Christmas and things like that before Alzheimer's infiltrates and all that, I'm going to say from a Christian worldview, God was in the midst of that. God was in the midst of that love and all the rest of it. But then that kind of oasis gets taken from us because of life. And then it's like, okay, how do we like get that feeling back? How do we get back to that area? And you know, the biblical answer, and I understand the Buddhist answer, is to say, look, you know, you got desires, and the desires are causing you suffering and all that. And that's one way to look at it. And I think there's a lot of utility in there. For me, I think the Christian answer is reorder your desires to where you desire God above all things, or you recognize that God is in the midst of that happiness, and happiness is a signposter to something. It's not the thing. So in other words, if I'm driving to Florida and we're trying to get to Disney World, you know, we're on the map thing and we're looking at the signs, and the sign says Disney World next right. Well, if you pull over and just camp out by the sign, you're not gonna be as happy. The sign is pointing you to something. So when we meet with family and all the rest of it, it's pointing to a greater source of happiness, actually. But if we miss the greater source of happiness, then when the curse inevitably infiltrates, we're going to be kind of lost. So, and that's why the song has this constant refrain of rejoicing, because if we could figure out how to interface with this being that brought us this happiness in these circumstances, if we could figure out that he's always with us and that we could access him, then there is a sense in which underneath all the pain and this is not the same, underneath that you could say, well, you're the same though.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? And so that's kind of been the theme of my life with a lot of things. Obviously, you guys know I've had a lot of losses with stuff, and you know, some days are better than others, and some days are worse than others. But it's a cool thing to be able to think that, even theoretically, to believe, but God is with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, God is with me. Billy says, don't put your faith in any other source than yourself, my guy. I mean, I understand that.
Yeah.
But
I disagree.
That's for like mega strong people, and I'm not a mega strong person. I'm a very, very weak person. I need a crutch. I got a lot of broken things inside of me. So I need a crutch. And some of y'all are like massively strong people, and you have faith in yourself and all that, and you know, more power to you. I'm just not that guy. I'm just not a strong individual. I'm very fragile, actually. So I need Jesus.
Me too.
I've also let myself down a quadrillion times. So, so that's the other thing.
Right.
Vincent is not a credible helper of Vincent. Just say it that way. Let's just keep it kosher. What were your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. And you kind of talked about how they would get themselves in that cycle and then they would be away. And so then the second line in the song, after O come, Emmanuel, it says, and ransom captive Israel. Mm-hmm. So they have it right in there, what you were just talking about. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
But this song is... It has like a real deeply religious experience to it. Like if you know, like... You know what I'm saying? Like yeah. I think it's really fascinating, Negative, that you were saying like that you're not really sure what this even has to do with Christmas, because I can't see how it could relate to anything other. But it's just fascinating to see how, you know, everybody's experiences and the things that you have learned, you know, influence how you're going to look at something. And so
yeah, the Christmas aspect is obviously that Jesus was born.
Jesus is Emmanuel.
This is a day that we're commemorating, supposedly, where Jesus was actually. Michael Heiser says, and I believe him actually, that Jesus was actually born on September 11th, but that's a different discussion. But
really?
Yeah, but yeah, it's a Christmas song because we're saying that Jesus is the fulfillment of that promise, not only for Israel, but for the whole world. That you see. Ransom captive Israel, bring us back, that mourns in lowly exile here until the Son of God appears.
So it's like a prayer, and then the next one seems, you know what I mean? Like it seems like there's, and then it almost seems like the answer is rejoice, 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 because
right.
It is going to happen. Like that prayer is going to be answered, and they are not going to stay captives. God is going to rescue them, and he's going to rescue them through Emmanuel. So there's that rejoice. So it's almost like saying what the problem is, but then starting the rejoicing right away, because you have so much belief that God is going to come through and do what he says he's going to do. Mm-hmm. And so there's like the rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. But then it's also, I think it's like a rejoice as in look forward because it's going to happen. And then it's also a rejoice when it has happened. And it's a rejoice for us now because we look back because it did happen. Like that Jesus, Emmanuel, did come.
Yeah, verse 2. O come thou dayspring, come and cheer our spirits by thine advent here. Disperse the gloomy clouds of night and death's dark shadows put to flight. That's one of the things I think is fascinating as far as the difference between, one of the major fundamental differences I see between Christianity and Buddhism is that it's completely rational. Your suffering, a lot of it is located in your desire. So the more you can divest yourself of attachment to things or attachment to desire or whatever, the less suffering you will experience. And I think that that's true logically. Christianity's answer to that is to say suffering is here not because of your attachment, because of your sin. So you should be attached to your family. You should be attached to your significant other. Yeah. You should be attached to your favorite food. Those are all things, but those things are signposts. They're not Disney World. They're not the destination. So from a biblical view, the suffering doesn't come from attachment. The suffering comes from parking out at the attachment instead of ultimately using those things to point you back to the ultimate. And so you're encouraged to feel everything as a Christian. And it's not this sort of nihilistic suffering is inevitable, but it's more so suffering in this world is temporary and is working for you an eternal weight of glory, which will not be able to be compared with the suffering that you're enduring in this little time. So it's very fascinating. But you know, obviously, my attachment to Jesus is a massively emotional one that's chock full of desires and things like that. And you kind of see all this stuff happen on 10. You know, when Jesus shows up, he's massively passionate, but he also gets terrifyingly angry to the point where there's like armed guards and he's flipping over the temple and nobody wants any smoke with him. Yeah. So it's interesting, but and then the constant refrain to rejoice is to feel all the emotions. Like, we've got gloomy clouds of night, like disperse them. Like,
Yeah.
So I just think it's great. I love this third verse. I've actually never
It wasn't familiar
seen
to
this
me
third
either.
verse before, but it's unbelievable. Thou Lord of Mights, which is interesting because mighty ones is sort of the term for it's usually translated as Elohim. So the term Elohim or God is applied to more beings than just God is God. It's applied to angels. It's applied to powerful spirits that have jurisdiction over the earth. So what it's saying here is thou Lord of mights. It's a way of saying that Jesus is the God of gods, which is very fascinating. Who to thy tribes at Sinai's height in ancient times did give the
people
law
were
and
also
cloud
called
and majesty and
Elohim
awe.
sometimes.
Say again?
Weren't people also called Elohim sometimes?
Yeah, people were called Elohim. Moses is called Elohim to Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Samuel is called Elohim by the witch of Endor.
Yeah. Right. Did you already say that and I missed that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But if you look at the last verse, who to thy tribes on Sinai's height in ancient times did give the law and cloud and majesty and awe.
Yeah.
What they're saying is that Jesus is the God that was there on Mount Sinai, which again is pretty insane claim to duty. I love this song. I love it very much. It's my favorite Christmas song. He did it very, very well. It's a 9.5 for me.
Ooh, good. A 9.5. This was a 10 for me. I really, I love the song itself, and then what he did with it, I thought he did very well. And and I'm excited because Vinny gave it a 9.5, and we usually disagree on which Christmas songs to listen to. So
I think
maybe this one will get added to our own. We'll start our own Christmas list with songs we both enjoy. Maybe this one can be on it.
Yeah, yeah. Why do you keep saying you need Christ? That's only Greek meaning anointed one. Moses was the Christ, Jeremiah was the Christ, so I just say Yeshua. Yeah, but the issue is that Jesus is Ha-Mashiach, meaning the anointed one. There are a lot of little kings, but Jesus is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. There are a lot of beings called sons of God. I'm called the Son of God. Satan is called the Son of God, but Jesus is the Son of God. So there's something singular about Jesus that's not true for any other being. So that's how to answer that question. Okay. All right, guys, we are coming back with more Christmas extravaganza.
We shall be here.
We shall see you on the other side of the break, dear listener. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.